Okay, let's talk about my new book that's coming out or is out. It depends on what version of Amazon you're using, but it basically is out. And it's called The Strong Woman with the Hard Life but Soft Smile That Never Died. A long title. I'm a fan of long titles. My first book was also a ridiculously long title, but I like them, so yeah. Let's talk about the themes in the book, not in the sense of like I'm going to spoil the book for you, because I hate spoilers like no other person on earth. That's my number one quality, is hating spoilers, but I really do. So we're not going to do spoilers. We're just going to touch on two themes and talk about the themes almost separated from the book, but just talk about it. So if by the end of this you're like, that was fun, you might like the book. So one is love and health, and love and health being equalizers. And the other is historical context and why that's something I've talked about a lot with people, and they always have this kind of like sigh of relief when we talk about it, because that's important. And it's kind of been pretending historical context doesn't matter is really ridiculous, because it's not about, it's like this moral absolutism from people where they're looking down on anyone, and but you're not in the same situation. And in my video where I talked about Sylvia Plath and racism, I talked about the idea of like, of course we would all, so I guess we're going first into historical context, we would all like to think, put me in any time in history, put me under any circumstances, and I'm gonna make it. Of course. Me? I'm gonna be an angel no matter what historical context you throw at me, no matter what consequences you throw at me, no matter what information I get or do not get. I mean, even the fact that the internet didn't exist is a huge change of pace, because you didn't have more information. I have a friend in China who uses VPN, and most people probably use it if they're not from China. Before the internet, there was no VPN. You couldn't have different news outlets. You couldn't, not that that's wherever reason people use VPN for, but you couldn't use that. So that didn't exist. Just the news of the country existed. Just the radio of the country existed. Just the newspaper. Like there used to be, and thank God it doesn't exist anymore, but there used to be an atmosphere in which you could live and control everything. Like brainwashing is kind of a thing of the past. Or is it? TikTok. No, I'm joking. It just has a lot of information. TikTok is an interesting thing. I'm not gonna be like, oh, you know who I'm taking on now? TikTok. I'm gonna like beef with TikTok because I like it. I post on it, obviously. But there's something to be said about, they have all of your information. Not in the sense of security, but they know what you like, they know what you don't like, they know your type, they know what kind of way of speaking you like. There's a lot of like, they could create the perfect thing or person or situation or music that would create a certain rhythm or beat to you. But anyways, but it's also a great site. I like it, but I do think about that sometimes, and the echo chambers that can exist within it. But let's talk. So historical context is important, hugely important. Internet, technology, what resources were available to them, because now a lot, like everyone, most people have internet. Not most people, but it's quite an equalizer. Like there's not a gap. Like it's not like, oh, only this amount of money making people have internet. No, most people have internet. Or not all, but most. Let's just let that word exist. But that's important to like put into context, and also with that context to let people exist within the context of that. I had a discussion once with someone who was complaining about their grandma or grandpa, I don't remember, I think grandma, and I was like, she's born before Freud was like popular, or around the time. Like, she's not even born in the time of like psychology and going to a therapist and stuff. Like, you can't use that with the same bracket as someone who did. That you cannot, I said that before, you cannot compare people who were used to therapy culture and people who were not. You can't even, honestly, but this is more interpersonally, compare someone who had gone to therapy versus someone who hasn't gone to therapy. Like, you can't really compare those two. And now comes this book that talks about that a lot, and about the context of brainwashing and how someone is kind of a product of their environment, and you kind of always are. It's just that the environment is different. It's like nature and nurture. And I think that's another interesting idea, is I think there's a lot of differences between races, but I think it's 99% nurture. But it is a lot of nurture. It is positively reinforcing some things, negatively reinforcing another thing, looking at them one way, doing this that way. Like, even the idea of like, if you look at someone weird every time they go shopping and you look at them like they're a criminal, at some point they're gonna go shopping feeling like a criminal, or feeling weird, or looking weird. And it's like, you looked at them weird, now they're looking at you weird, and you're like, why are they looking at me weird? They're looking at you weird because you looked at them weird, kind of thing. But that is like historical context, and I love that, and I tried to explore that in this book. Now, the other theme, a subplot theme, subtle, in this book is love and health. Health is a bigger theme than love, but I think the cool thing about love, except the fact that it is love, is that it's the great equalizer. You can be rich, you can be poor, you can be thin, you can be fat, you can be smart, you can be stupid. And somehow there kind of doesn't seem to be a theme or a thing that is like, okay, this, you have this, off you go, you're gonna do great with love. Love is gonna be easy. There's kind of no, it's not luck. I don't want to say luck, but I do think it's cool that people always kind of find their equal. And I think that's the cool thing with love most of the time, is that people find who they're meant to be with. And there's a saying, for every pot there's a lid, or whatever. And I always thought of the saying as kind of very rude because when I think of it like, you'll find, it's like when some people say, I hope you get what you deserve. That's never like, I hope you get what you deserve. It's great things you deserve. It's usually not that. But I think it's cool. I think that's the beautiful thing about love, is that it's a equalizer that you don't really know. And I think it's what honestly makes life exciting. Not because there's nothing else that's exciting or interesting. Of course, there's all these academic things that are interesting, and the world in general, and space and math and languages and all of that. But I think love is exciting in the way of like not being predictable, and not being a guarantee, and not being mathematical, and kind of just this like, there's always the juxtaposition between logic and passion. And I think love is obviously very passionate and emotional, and I think it's kind of the only emotion we let exist for long periods of time. If someone's sad forever, you're like, what the fuck's going on? Come on, get in a good mood. If someone's happy forever or for a long time, I tend to be a little over the top happy sometimes. People are like, are you high? Are you drunk? But love is something that kind of like universally, over every, like socially, economically, like we all kind of agree on. And even the people who don't agree and who are bitter and don't believe in love and transactional relationships, they're still disagreeing with a concept they believe exists, or they believe exists as a concept. But yeah, those are the two themes in my new book. Go check it out. I'm really proud. I really enjoyed making it, and